Well, Elaine Luria, great to see you. Why are you running to get back into politics?
Well, I go out in the community, I listen to people, and everybody is talking about the same thing. Prices are going up, the cost of food, the cost at the grocery store, the cost of buying a house, sending your kid to school, everything is going up. And I look to our representative who went to Washington promising, ran on a campaign to fix these things, and nothing has changed. So everything that she's done hasn't made a single bit of difference.
Okay, am I in the shot there? Okay, good. All right, now, that was, where are you going? Okay, am I still going? Yeah. Okay, good. Now, where have you been, Elaine Luria? Where have you been? What have you been doing since we last saw you?
Well, Andy, over the last few years, I've actually been fortunate to be able to spend quite a bit of time with my family. Many people might not know, but our son-in-law passed away from cancer at 28, and then my father passed away shortly after that. So it's really been a time, a blessing, that I've had the opportunity to spend time with my family, to be able to help with our grandson, who at the time was 9 months and is now about 3.5. So I've served my whole career in uniform in the Navy and then 4 years in Congress, but this was really an important time for me to be able to be home.
What was it that got you back to want to run, to get your old, what is it that made you want to get your old job back?
Well, everywhere I go, everything I hear, I go to the grocery store. I mean, look at prices going up. I mean, the whole idea was, Trump was going to come in, this Republican Congress was going to do all this to help get prices down, to cut inflation, and we've literally seen nothing but more chaos from Washington. I mean, the government's been shut down for over 40 days, the longest shutdown in history. Congress didn't even go to work for about 50 days, and now they're back, but the government's still not open, and they're trying to take people's health care away, make it more expensive, the ACA subsidies. I mean, I've talked to people whose health care is projected, when they look to sign up for next year, to go up 2.5 times. So I think we need a different direction. I think we did need different leadership in Washington.
Which side are you on? The senators, the Democratic senators who decided to open the government, or the ones that were holding out? Which side do you come down on?
Well, Andy, there's an interesting thing. You know how important the 2nd District is to the majority in Congress? So I think you know well from living here and sort of covering these races over the year, that if I'm in Congress, if a Democrat represents the 2nd District, the Democrats have the majority in Congress. So the place we'd be then would be, we wouldn't be talking about a shutdown. We would have kept the government open, and there would never, ever have been a discussion of taking away people's ACA subsidies and making healthcare more affordable. Explain
that. If you had won and you were still there, how would that have impacted what has happened?
Well, it's really close in Congress, the number of Democrats and Republicans, and this seat is one of a handful, I can count them on my hand, that make up the majority for the whole country. So if you flip VAO2, essentially, and a handful of other seats, the whole House flips, and there's different leadership, and I think a mindset that we want to take care of people and not raise their health care costs.
What did last Tuesday's elections tell you?
It tells me people are fed up with high costs. It tells me that people want to change, and it tells me that people are energized and they really understand that coming out to vote is an important way to send that message.
The fact that it was not a blue wave but a blue tsunami, what does that mean?
It means that they're really pissed off. And we saw more younger voters, we saw more voters in rural areas, we saw across the spectrum more people showing up, and their voice was clear. And I think one of the most underreported stories, and I give kudos to our Speaker of the House, Don Scott. I mean, 64 seats in the House of Delegates. I mean, that is an incredible shift in public opinion, and it really sends a message that this is what people in Virginia want.
He sat down, he and I go way back too. He sat down in January, we sat down, he said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to target 14 Republican seats, and we're going to go raise a lot of money.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. And how many of those 14 did he win?
Well, they gained 13 seats.
13, he won 13 of them. So what does that say? Blue, Virginia is now blue?
I would certainly say so after last Tuesday. And the thing is that when people show up, and people show up in every community in Virginia, there were 100 Democrats, one in every single district across Virginia for the House of Delegates. If you look at the Republican side, there were districts where they didn't even bother to have a candidate. So when you show up in communities, when you talk to people, and when you talk about issues that matter to them, it gets people motivated, and they come out to vote.
Spanberger won the 2nd district, 54-46. What does that tell you?
It tells me the same thing. People in Hampton Roads, they want to change, and the message and optimism of being able to provide new and better leadership for not only the Commonwealth of Virginia but the country is on people's minds.
In the same district, you had issues in southern part of Chesapeake, Isle of Wight County, where they voted for her. What do you do to change that so that you come out on top?
Well, the redistricting happened after the census, so 2022 was the first election under those district lines.
And she won.
And I had been, back and forth across the entire district, Eastern Shore, Virginia Beach, and the district at that time went all the way up the peninsula to Williamsburg. So, with the new district and meeting new voters, I think that, this time around I have an opportunity to get out and meet more people in the communities in that new part of the district.
Do you support efforts by Democrats to change the congressional districts quickly? North Carolina did it in 9 days, I believe. Do you support those efforts to reconfigure the congressional districts, which, if Democrats are doing it, could very much help you? Do you support that? And is that the reason, or one of the reasons, that you decided to run?
Well, what I would say, Andy, is this has to pass through a constitutional amendment. So the General Assembly already voted on it once. We had an election, as you saw. There's now 64 Democrats, so 13 seats flipped in the House of Delegates, so they have the overwhelming majority in the House of Delegates. So when that's brought up again, signs are that that'll pass, but it's not up to me or anyone other than the voters of Virginia, because in order for this to happen, it goes to a referendum. So truly, the way the process is built, every single person in the Commonwealth of Virginia has the same vote on this. So if and when that happens, that'll decide whether the districts change.
What has Jen Kiggans not done that you think she has failed?
Well, she says she cares about health care, and her professional background is as a nurse. But while she's been in Congress, she voted for this bill. I think they call it the big, beautiful, ugly bill. It's the biggest cut to Medicaid that we've seen in our lifetime. And if you care about health care, why are you going to cut people's Medicaid? She also is sort of waving a flag, saying she cares about people's health care premiums under the ACA, but she didn't care about it when she was walking hand in hand with her Republican colleagues to the edge of a cliff of a shutdown, knowing that the consequences of that were going to be that these ACA premium subsidies ended, and she was perfectly willing to let people's health care costs go up.
I want to read you a statement from Riley Richardson. He said, retread loser Elaine Luria remains an out-of-touch liberal who rubber-stamped Biden's destructive cost-raising open borders agenda. If Luria moves even further left than she already is to win a messy Democratic primary, she'll have the honor of conceding to Jen Kiggans twice. Your response?
Well, my response is that, I am certainly not a very far left liberal. I have worked across the aisle my entire time in Congress. I was one of the most bipartisan members of Congress and one of the most effective. In my freshman term, I was actually voted the second most effective member of Congress, and I passed legislation that was signed by both presidents. And I think that I'll continue that track record. I'm out and about across the community working with our local and state leaders from both parties at every level of government. And I brought home huge resources to the district when I was in Congress. I brought home the largest community funding project in the country, $8 million to create a revamped 911 system for public safety on the Eastern Shore. And that's just one of many of those things. And also I'm a huge advocate for the military. In my last 2 years in Congress, I collectively offered the amendments that were approved and signed into law for $62 billion additional dollars for our defense budget. So the issues that I care about are the issues that are important in Hampton Roads, and I will always continue to support those issues.
Was Trump on the ballot on last Tuesday? Was he on the ballot?
People always.
And he's going to be on the ballot when you run too.
Yes, I mean, when people go vote, they vote based off of their satisfaction from the current people in leadership. So as long as he's in office, essentially he's on the ballot relative to future elections. And if the direction the country's going is not something that people like, they're going to vote the other way.
The fact that one of the challengers, the fact that Michael Williamson dropped out and said everyone support Elaine Luria, what did that mean to you? Is that important?
I mean, that means a lot. I mean, Mike Williamson is someone who served in the Marine Corps. He spent his whole life in service, and he came into this race because he wanted to continue to serve in a different capacity, and that's a very similar background to mine, and also a thing that motivates me to continue to serve. So the fact that he recognizes the work that I did in my first 2 times in Congress, and is changing course from his own plans to seek the seat and support me, I mean, that means a lot.
2 last questions. What are the 3 biggest things in the event that you win? What are the 3 policies that you will really fight hard for and have your name attached to those 3 big issues? What are they?
Well, I think we need to work on keeping costs down, and that can happen a lot of ways. We've worked on prescription drug costs, the cost of healthcare, so that's incredibly important. I'll always stand behind veterans and veterans issues. I was instrumental in passing the PACT Act, which is the largest increase in access to veterans care in our lifetime, and I will continue to hear from veterans and work on behalf of veterans. And I'll continue to support our military and our armed forces and our military families in the same way that I did in my earlier time in Congress.
Last question, for the voters out there, biggest difference between you and Jen Kiggans?
I get stuff done. I was one of the most effective members of Congress. I mean, in the 2 terms she's been in Congress roughly, she's had 1 bill signed into law. In my first term in Congress, I had 6 bills signed into law, and I had legislation enacted from both presidents. I think I was very effective and have been very effective in working across the aisle and getting things done that matter to people in the 2nd District.
Thank you very much. Is there anything you want to add?